Wallace Greer had grown used to silence. Each morning he brewed the same black coffee in the same old pot, sat in the same wooden chair by the window, and stared out at the fog curling over Ashwell Bay. The ocean didn't change much out here. Neither did Wallace. He was nearing 70 next spring, though he'd long stopped keeping track. Life in his view got easier when you stopped counting. He had his routines. Coffee at 6, toast at 6:30, a slow walk to the mailbox at 10. He rarely got mail. Most days it was coupons, real estate flyers, or catalogs from places he never shopped. He read them anyway, not for the deals, just for the motion of flipping pages. That morning the fog was thicker than usual, pressing against the glass like it wanted to come inside. Wallace had just set his mug down when he heard it. A knock. 3 soft taps. Hesitant. He didn't move at first. Marcia, his housekeeper, was out that morning picking up groceries and a new water filter. He wasn't expecting anyone, not that he ever was. But the knock came again, slightly firmer. Wallace stood, joints cracking like twigs, and opened the door. And there she was. Lena. His daughter, the one who hadn't called, written, or visited in 5 years, the one who left after shouting that he never knew how to love. Her face looked older, thinner. Her eyes, same green as her mother's, were slightly swollen. Behind her stood a man Wallace didn't recognize, tall, clean-shaven, wearing a denim jacket and holding a travel bag. "Hi, Dad," Lena said softly. Wallace didn't say anything at first. He just stared at her like he was trying to remember whether this was real or a trick of the fog. "This is Travis," she added, motioning toward the man. "My husband." Wallace blinked slowly, his expression unreadable. He gave a small nod. "You gonna let us in?" Travis asked, trying for a light tone. Wallace stepped aside. The kitchen hadn't changed since the 90s. White cabinets, yellowing tile, a humming refrigerator that made a clunk every hour. Wallace poured himself coffee but didn't offer any. Travis tried to fill the silence. "This place is something. That view out back, man, looks like one of those postcards you find at gas stations." Lena smiled, looking around like she was memorizing it. "It's exactly how I remember." Wallace took a sip, then finally spoke. "So, what brings you back?" Lena hesitated. "Just wanted to see you. It's been a long time." "It has," Wallace said flat. "Why now?" She looked down. Travis spoke up. "We've been going through some things. Needed a break from the city. Figured it might be time to reconnect. With family." Wallace didn't answer. The only sound was the clink of his spoon against the mug. Just then the side door creaked open. Marcia entered, arms full of paper bags. She froze when she saw the guests. "Well," she said, arching an eyebrow. "Didn't expect company." Lena stood. "Hi, Marcia. You look good." Marcia set the bags down, wiping her hands on her apron. "You too, Miss Lena. It's been a while." Travis reached out a hand. "Hi, I'm Travis." Marcia didn't take it. "I'll get the guest room ready," she said, and disappeared down the hall. That evening, the guest room lights glowed faint behind a closed door. Wallace sat alone in his study, the only room he still locked. The walls were lined with dusty books. A photo of Lena at age 6, missing teeth, messy braids, sat crooked on a shelf. He picked it up, stared at it. The girl in the picture smiled like she believed in magic. He wondered when that left her. Down the hall he could hear Lena's laugh. Travis was telling some story, something about a bad Airbnb. The laughter sounded foreign in this house. Wallace opened his desk drawer. Inside, tucked beneath some envelopes, was a credit card, not his main one, a separate account, small, nearly forgotten. He placed it on the center of his desk where it could be seen. Then he leaned back in the chair, staring at the door. "Let's see what you came for. You still keep your study locked, huh?" Travis asked, tapping his knuckle lightly against the closed door. Wallace didn't look up from his newspaper. "Always have." Travis gave a short laugh. "What have you got in there, treasure maps?" Wallace didn't smile. He just turned the page. It was the second morning since Lena and Travis arrived. They had settled in quickly. Too quickly, Wallace thought. Lena acted like she'd never left. She brewed tea in the mornings, asked about old neighbors, dusted shelves that didn't need dusting. Travis, meanwhile, wandered. He was always stretching his legs, finding excuses to be near Wallace's office or the locked garage, always curious, always watching. At breakfast, Lena stirred her oatmeal slowly. "We've been meaning to ask," she began, not looking up. "How are things?" Financially, Wallace didn't flinch. "Fine. Retirement's expensive, isn't it?" He folded the paper neatly. "I planned ahead." Travis jumped in, feigning casual. I read somewhere that over 60% of folks your age outlive their savings. Pretty scary. Wallace gave him a slow look. Then I'm part of the 40%. Silence settled over the table. Then Lena cleared her throat. Do you ever think about what happens to it all when you're gone, I mean? Marcia, who had just walked in with fresh coffee, froze mid-pour. Wallace didn't answer right away. Then he stood up, walked to the kitchen counter and picked up his wallet. From inside, he pulled out a credit card, the same one from his desk, and placed it gently on the table. I've got just under $2 million sitting in an old account tied to that, he said. Don't use it much, just sits there. He watched their faces carefully. Lena blinked. Travis tried to hide a sharp inhale. Wow, Travis said, chuckling. Good for you. Wallace nodded once. Not everything has to be spent. Later that day, Wallace took a slow walk into town. He didn't need anything. He just needed to be gone. At the hardware store, he picked up a spare camera battery. At the coffee shop, he sat and sipped tea he didn't like. Then he opened the small app on his phone, the one connected to the cameras he'd installed over the past week. 2 in the study, 1 above the hallway, motion sensors, sound capture, nothing too fancy. Just enough. He watched in real time as Travis stood in front of the study door alone, glancing both ways down the hall. Then Wallace closed the app. That evening, Lena found him in the backyard trimming rosemary. Hey, she said soft, you always liked working with your hands. Wallace kept trimming. I meant what I said, about missing you. He didn't respond. She shifted on her feet. We've just been through a lot, Dad. Travis lost his job. I had some health stuff. Things got tight. You came here for help, Wallace said simply. Lena looked down. We came here to reconnect. Same thing, he replied. She didn't argue. After a long pause, she asked, Do you ever think about being a grandfather? Wallace stopped trimming. I think about being a better father, he said. That's hard enough. That night, Marcia caught him in the hallway. You're letting them stay, she said, for now. You think they're going to take that bait? She asked, voice low. Wallace looked her in the eye. I think they already have. They waited until past midnight, the kind of hour when the world is too tired to lie. Outside, a soft drizzle tapped against the windows, and the waves far below whispered a rhythm only old men and lost things could hear. Inside the house, everything was still. Wallace's bedroom light had gone out at 10 sharp as always. The only sound now was the faint ticking of the hallway clock and the occasional creak of the wooden floor under shifting weight. Lena stood in the hallway barefoot, her pulse loud in her ears. Her hand hovered near the doorknob of Wallace's study, the room she wasn't allowed to enter, the one he always locked until yesterday. He's asleep, Travis whispered behind her. I checked. Dude snores like a tractor. Lena didn't move. This feels wrong. You're already here, he replied. Don't go soft on me now. She slowly turned the knob. It wasn't locked. The study was as still as a chapel, shelves of books and papers, everything lined with almost obsessive neatness. The desk sat in the middle like a judge at trial. On it, like a quiet dare, was the credit card. Travis stepped past her, picked it up with a kind of reverence. Here it is, he said, flipping it once in his fingers. Black card, no limits. Lena remained near the door. Are you sure this is smart? He looked at her. You said we needed a way out. Here it is. He pulled out his phone and opened the airline app. 2 tickets, Vegas, direct, 10:10 in the morning. First class. He turned to her with a grin. We go big or we stay broke. She didn't smile. Instead, her eyes moved to the shelf beside the desk. A picture frame sat there, her age, 6, smiling so wide you could see every missing tooth. Wallace had taken that picture in the backyard. She remembered the swing set, the sunlight, the way he'd lifted her up, and said she was his little storm. She turned away. Let's just go, she said quietly. Wallace lay in bed, still, his stone eyes open, earbuds in. On his phone screen was a silent, grainy feed of the study. He watched Travis pick up the card, watched Lena say nothing, watched them both walk out the door, left slightly ajar. He felt something sharp inside, regret maybe, or just confirmation. He closed the app, set the phone on his nightstand, and exhaled slowly. Then he made a call. The next morning dawned gray and cold. Fog clung to the cliffs, hiding the bay from view. Wallace was already up, standing by the coffee maker as it hissed and steamed. Marcia came into the kitchen, tying her robe. You sleep enough. She glanced at the front window. They heading out today? He nodded. You called Ward last night. She poured herself coffee. Want me to stay? No. This one's mine. At 7:45 a.m., Lena and Travis came down the stairs dressed for travel. Travis wore sunglasses even though the sky was dull. Lena had tied her hair back like she used to when she was nervous in school. 2 duffel bags sat by the door. "Thanks for letting us stay," Mr. Greer, Travis said. "We'll check in once we land." Wallace sat at the table sipping from his mug. "Where to, Vegas?" Travis answered quickly. "Just a little time away." Wallace nodded once. "That's so." The low rumble of a car drifted in from outside. Lena glanced at the window. "Who's that?" Moments later, Sheriff Ward stepped onto the porch. Big man, wore a Stetson and a look that said he'd rather be fishing. "Travis Dunn," he called out. "Lena Greer." Travis's face paled. "What's this?" Lena asked, stepping forward. "You're both being detained," Ward said calmly. "Suspicion of financial fraud and attempted theft. We have video and audio surveillance as evidence. You'll need to come with us." Travis exploded. "Are you kidding me? This is entrapment." Lena turned to Wallace, voice trembling. "You set us up." Wallace rose from the table. "No," he said evenly. "You set yourselves up." At the station, the truth played out on a loop. Wallace provided the footage the moment Lena opened the door. The card lifted from the desk the whispered conversations. Sheriff Ward asked questions, filled out forms. Wallace didn't press for jail time. He didn't need to. The damage was done. "I'm not interested in punishment," he told Ward. "Just peace." He signed a no-contact order, declined to file full charges, and stood in the doorway as Lena and Travis were left sitting under fluorescent lights, one crying, one seething. "You came for my money," he said, voice low, "but you lost something much bigger." He didn't wait for a response. Back at the house, Wallace stood in the study again. The room looked unchanged, untouched, but it wasn't. Not really. He walked to the desk, picked up the card, and cut it clean in half with a pair of scissors. Then he turned to the bookshelf. The photo of Lena as a child stared back at him. For the first time in years, he turned it face down. The town was quieter than usual. News didn't travel fast in Ashwell Bay. It galloped. By the end of the week, half the folks at the diner already knew Wallace Greer had called in the sheriff on his own daughter and her husband. The other half pretended they hadn't heard, but watched him a little longer over their coffee. Wallace didn't care. Let them talk. He had other things on his mind. He sat in Sheriff Ward's office, now a manila folder in front of him, and a fresh cup of burnt station coffee cooling in his hands. "You sure you don't want to press charges?" Ward asked again. "The footage is solid. State charges could stick." Wallace shook his head. "I didn't do this for revenge." Ward leaned back. "They'll walk. Misdemeanor at best, maybe a fine." "I know. You still want that no-contact order?" Wallace didn't answer right away. "Then, yes." Later that afternoon, Eldon Price, his longtime attorney, met him at the house. Eldon was tall, bony, with glasses that always slid down his nose when he got serious. "You really want to do this?" he asked, flipping through the legal forms. Wallace nodded. "I want everything changed." "All right," Eldon said. "You're leaving Lena nothing, not a cent. And the new beneficiary is..." Wallace handed him a handwritten note. Eldon read it, then raised his brows. "The Eleanor Greer Foundation." Wallace said, "My mother always wanted to give kids a shot. Scholarships, rural families. Start something small. Maybe it grows." Eldon smiled faintly. "I'll get the paperwork moving." It was nearly dusk when the phone rang. Wallace stared at it a long time before answering. Dad Lena's voice was quiet, smaller than he remembered. "They let us go," she said. "No jail. Just a fine. Travis is mad. At you. At me." Wallace said nothing. "I wanted to call because I know you probably hate me. But I need you to know when I was little I thought you hung the moon." He closed his eyes. "I know I messed up," she continued. "I got scared. About money, about life, and I thought maybe you still had something left for me. Not just cash. Something from the dad I used to know." Wallace's voice was low. "You waited 5 years to speak to me. And when you did, you stole." "I didn't want to," she said. "I just didn't know how to ask for help." "You didn't ask," he said. "You calculated." Silence. "I loved you," he said finally. "Still do in some corner of myself. But love without trust is nothing. You killed that part." Lena's breath hitched. "I'm pregnant." He didn't move. 5 months, she added. "We found out just before we came. That's why I," Wallace interrupted, calm but cold. "Don't use that child as a shield. I'm not..." "You are, and I won't play that game." A long pause. "Goodbye, Lena," he said, and hung up. That night he sat at the kitchen table long after Marcia had gone home. He poured himself a glass of the good whiskey stuff he hadn't touched in years and stared at the legal documents in front of him. Then he signed them one by one. Executor Eldon Price, beneficiary the Eleanor Greer Foundation, assets all property accounts investments. At the bottom he scrawled his name. Then quietly he whispered, "This ends with me." The boxes were light, clothes mostly, a few books, an old fishing reel he hadn't used in 20 years but couldn't quite let go of, the framed photo of his mother, a pair of wool socks Marcia had knitted last Christmas still unworn. Wallace moved slow, careful not to disturb the stillness of the house. It felt like a goodbye, long overdue. The morning light was soft, filtered through gray clouds and salt-stained windows. Outside, a rented moving van idled at the edge of the gravel drive. Not much was going, just enough. Marcia stood near this doorway, arms folded tight. "You sure about this?" she asked. "Yes," she nodded, but her eyes didn't hide the hurt. "You built a life here, Mr. Wallace. People know you. People respect you." He zipped the last duffel bag. Respect doesn't fill the quiet. Marcia looked around the house. Every corner still smelled like him. "Where will you go, Flagstaff?" he said. "Always meant to see it. Heard the pines are tall and the air's clean." She reached into her apron and pulled out a small jar wrapped in cloth. "Homemade blueberry jam, in case you forget the taste of this place." Wallace took it with both hands touched. "I won't forget," he said. "But I need to leave." They stood in silence a moment. Then, unexpectedly, Marcia leaned in and hugged him quick, tight, motherly. "You were good," she whispered, even if they never said it. At the front gate, Eldon Price waited beside the moving van holding a clipboard. "Everything's in order," he said, passing over a thick envelope. "Deeds in Marcia's name as you requested. Foundation account's been activated. First scholarship cycle launches next spring." Wallace nodded. "Thank you. You'll get some pushback. Lena might contest the will." "She won't," he said, simply. "You're really not leaving a note. A letter, anything." "I said what needed saying." Eldon didn't argue, just reached out a hand. Wallace shook it. "You've got somewhere to go," Wallace Eldon said. "Not everyone gets that." At the bus station, Wallace sat on a bench with a single suitcase and a folded coat on his lap. It had started to rain again, just a mist. The kind of rain that doesn't soak you, just reminds you you're alive. A little girl, maybe 8 or 9, sat down beside him with a lollipop in her mouth. She looked at him for a long time, then asked, "Are you somebody's grandpa?" Wallace looked at her, then out at the road, then back at her. "I don't know," he said. She smiled. Swung her legs and said, "You look like one." He smiled too. When the bus pulled up, he stood, nodded once to her, and stepped aboard. He didn't look back. Flagstaff smelled like pine and second chances. The cold here was different. Not the damp coastal chill of Oregon, but a crisp, dry kind that bit your skin clean, then backed off like it meant no harm. Wallace liked that, honest weather. He had rented a small upstairs apartment near the town square. Nothing fancy. A kitchenette, a twin bed, and a window that faced a line of snow-dusted rooftops. There was a cafe downstairs where the old-timers met every morning and a used bookstore across the street that sold more coffee than books. It suited him. He fell into a new rhythm, up at 6, coffee by 7, a walk through the park by 8. He didn't talk much, but people nodded when they saw him. He nodded back. Sometimes in the afternoons he sat by the window and sketched. Nothing detailed, just shapes, shadows, outlines of trees or people passing by. Other times he wrote short entries in a small leather journal. Not quite letters, not quite confessions, just thoughts. It was enough. One afternoon, a boy from the building came up the stairs with a broken toy in one hand and a chocolate bar in the other. "Hi," the boy said. "My name's Leo. My grandma says you're the quiet man upstairs." Wallace looked up from his sketchbook. "Is that right?" "Yeah," Leo said, stepping in. "She says you used to be a teacher or something." "I used to be a lot of things." Leo held up the toy. "You know how to fix stuff?" Wallace took it, turned it slowly in his hands. "Maybe." They sat in silence while he worked. The plastic wheel popped back into place with a little twist and pressure. The boy beamed. "You're good at stuff," Leo said. Wallace smiled, soft and small. "I had a lot of time to practice." That evening he returned to his desk and opened the journal again. This time he didn't write a date or a title. He just started, "To my grandchild. I don't know if I'll ever meet you. Maybe your parents will tell you I was cruel or cold. Maybe they won't speak of me at all, but I want you to know wherever you are that I thought of you. I thought of the chance to do things right, even if not directly. I wanted something better for you than what I gave your mother. This life. It's hard sometimes, but it's also fair in quiet ways. If you listen close, I hope you grow strong, kind, and unafraid. I hope you love without shame. And I hope you never let bitterness sit too long inside you. It will rot everything good. With whatever I have left, this is for you. Wallace Greer. He folded the page, carefully slipped it inside a book. To Kill a Mockingbird, and walked down to the little community book exchange box outside the cafe. He didn't label it, didn't leave a note. He just slid it onto the shelf between two dog-eared mysteries and walked away. Later that night, snow began to fall. Wallace stood at the window watching the flakes catch in the street lamp glow. The world below looked softer, quieter, less sharp. He didn't feel lonely. He felt settled, not forgiven, not forgotten, just finally free. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.